When someone lies while looking straight into the camera, most people notice. But when the lie is delivered with such conviction, backed by the weight of the Trump name and the echo of applause from an audience trained to believe anything, the story changes. That's exactly what happened when Eric Trump, Donald Trump's son, appeared on Fox News to spin yet another version of the facts. Only this time, he let slip something that could come at a steep price. Not just for him, but for his father, the man who once again occupies the White House, riding a wave of promises to make America great again, while the country sinks into distrust, division, and economic chaos. Eric, ever the loyal heir to an empire built on ego, victimhood, and propaganda, recounted the infamous day the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, his father's private resort, in search of the classified documents Trump had taken from the White House. With a voice trembling with rehearsed indignation, Eric claimed that Jack Smith, the special counsel investigating the former president, had planted manila folders in his father's office, an accusation as absurd as it is convenient. What Eric either fails to understand or chooses to ignore is that the raid happened 2 months before Jack Smith was even appointed special counsel. In other words, the alleged setup could not have taken place. But truth has never been the fuel of the Trump family. What drives this machine is the constant need to invent enemies, manufacture martyrs, and turn every crime into a spectacle, all with the faithful support of a media that long ago stopped being journalism and became a stage for propaganda. As Fox News spins every scandal into a heroic narrative, the Trump administration continues to peddle the fantasy that any accusation against him is political persecution, and many believe it. The strategy is old, but it still works. The more a lie is repeated, the more comfortable it becomes, especially for those who refuse to face reality. And the reality is that the country is now in one of the darkest chapters of its recent history. The economy is stagnant, the middle class is suffocating, prices are soaring, and the government is too busy settling personal scores to care about the people who elected it. Trump promised to be the man of the people, the businessman who would fix Washington, the patriot who would take on the system. But what we see is a president obsessed with self-preservation, wielding power to attack enemies and shield allies. He doesn't govern, he commands a spectacle with the White House as his main stage. The problem is that while he performs, the country crumbles behind the scenes. The industries he vowed to revive keep shrinking, the cost of living spirals out of control, and ordinary Americans watch, powerless, as another season of ego and lies unfolds. The Fox News episode is just another chapter in this soap opera blending politics and fiction. The difference now is that with Trump back in power, the consequences are real. Institutions are under attack, the press is treated as the enemy, and any attempt to hold him accountable is dismissed as a coup. Eric, the obedient son, plays his part, spreading the convenient version of events, rewriting facts, and casting his father as the victim. It's a choreography rehearsed for years, and the public, weary as it is, should have learned the steps by now. Yet there are still those who applaud. There are still those who see in Trump not a politician, but a messiah. And it's this blind faith that keeps him invincible, at least in the eyes of those who prefer the charade to confronting failure. Eric Trump's remarks are more than just another opportunistic lie. They're a perfect reflection of how his father's government operates. The foundation is manipulation of perception. It's not about governing, it's about convincing. It's not about concrete results. It's about creating the illusion of victory, even when the facts say otherwise. And that's precisely what keeps this administration afloat, a propaganda machine that speaks directly to people's emotions, feeding fear, anger, and resentment as political fuel. Trump understands the power of outrage better than anyone. He's discovered that if he keeps the country in a state of perpetual emotional warfare, whether against the press, the judiciary, or anyone who criticizes him, he can get away with almost anything without losing support. That's why he and his allies turn every investigation into persecution, every critique into fake news, and every opponent into an enemy of the nation. It's a dangerous strategy because it erodes something essential: trust in institutions. And when people stop believing in institutions, whoever shouts the loudest becomes the arbiter of truth. The case of the planted folders is a grotesque example. Eric Trump tries to rewrite history, ignoring dates, documents, and evidence, doing so with the calm of someone who knows no one in his circle will question him. In this government, truth doesn't matter. What matters is who controls the narrative. And whoever controls the narrative controls the people. While this smokescreen is raised, reality slips through the fingers of ordinary Americans. Inflation won't ease, promised jobs don't materialize, and the cost of living keeps pushing millions to the brink of despair. The promise of an industrial renaissance has become a joke. Factories closing, imports rising, and families who once lived with dignity now juggling 2 or 3 jobs just to afford the basics. And the government, too busy with scandals, investigations, and fiery speeches to even glance at the citizens paying the price for this mess. The irony is that Trump still presents himself as the savior of the American worker. But the numbers tell a different story. Billionaires get richer, corporations enjoy tax breaks, and small business owners remain crushed by taxes and uncertainty. Trump's economic populism is a well-rehearsed act. He talks like a man of the people, but governs like a businessman, and for him, business always means personal profit. Meanwhile, his supporters continue to believe they're fighting the system. Little do they know that the real system is Trump himself. He has become what he claimed to fight, a politician who uses power to punish enemies, reward friends, and manipulate the masses with inflammatory rhetoric. All while the country, in practice, kneels before an elite growing richer and more detached from the reality on the streets. And what of the media? Trump has turned news outlets into personal enemies. If a report criticizes him, it's unfair. If it investigates, it's fraudulent. If it exposes the truth, it's fake news. This war on information is one of the most dangerous weapons of this administration because it destroys the public's ability to distinguish fact from fiction. When ordinary citizens start doubting everything, they become vulnerable to believing anything, especially the convenient lies handed down from above. But there's an even darker side. By painting the judicial system and the press as villains, Trump paves the way for something far more sinister: the political weaponization of state power. We've seen this before, when leaders begin persecuting opponents in the name of justice. What follows is often authoritarianism disguised as patriotism. It's the same path other countries have taken before losing their democracy, step by step, always believing this time is different. That's what makes this moment so dangerous. While the government shields itself with false narratives, the country bleeds, and as always, it's the people who pay the price. What Eric Trump said on television might seem like just another foolish remark from a spoiled son trying to protect his father. But in reality, it's a portrait of something much deeper: the normalization of lying as a tool of governance. And when lies become state policy, the entire country becomes its hostage. With every new appearance, every new excuse, every new conspiracy theory, the Trump administration digs a deeper hole and drags a nation that no longer knows whom to believe down with it. The United States, once seen as a symbol of stability, now finds itself mired in confusion. Institutions are weakened, democratic values have been reduced to bargaining chips, and the very notion of truth has been assassinated in the public square. The one responsible isn't the system, the press, or the opposing party. It's a government that has turned power into a personal shield and politics into a spectacle of self-preservation. Trump governs with the instinct of someone who sees enemies everywhere. Every investigation becomes vengeance, every court ruling fraud, every accusation a setup. This paranoid posture has a clear purpose: to keep the country in a permanent state of war, not against external threats, but against Americans who dare to disagree. In this scenario, Eric and the rest of the family's spokespeople serve as amplifiers of a poisonous discourse that divides, deceives, and numbs. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens keep waiting for promises that never arrive. The great America they were sold has become a distant illusion. The cost of living skyrockets, the healthcare system remains broken, and the American dream that anyone can prosper through hard work seems more and more like a privilege reserved for the few. The government talks of patriotism but turns a blind eye to forgotten veterans, abandoned industrial towns, and indebted families struggling to survive in a country that no longer looks out for them. Worst of all, much of this is done to applause, because the administration's propaganda machine has achieved something few regimes have: convincing millions that truth is the enemy. When a president turns lies into a banner and hatred into political fuel, it's no longer about ideology. It's the deliberate destruction of the national conscience. It's the dismantling of collective sense, replaced by a cult of personality. But there's something Trump and his allies haven't yet grasped. No matter how hard they try to control the narrative, reality always demands its due. The economy weakens, trust evaporates, and even the most fervent supporters begin to realize they've been used. Because there comes a point when the price of willful blindness becomes too high. No government survives forever by hiding the truth, and when it finally surfaces, it does so with force. Eric Trump, in accusing Jack Smith of planting evidence, unwittingly confessed something much bigger: that his father's government thrives on illusion, manipulation, and denial. It's a government that would rather blame the world than admit its mistakes. And as it does, it destroys what little credibility remains in the institutions meant to protect the country. That's why this moment calls for more than outrage. It demands clarity. It demands the courage to stare the truth in the eye, even when it hurts. Because lies may win votes, but they don't build a future. And what we're seeing now is a government that prefers to govern the past, an idealized, invented past, rather than face the present. The question that remains is simple. How long will the American people accept being deceived? How long will they allow one man to use the power of the world's strongest nation to settle personal grudges and feed his own ego? True patriotism isn't about applauding the loudest voice. It's about defending the country, even from those who govern it. And if this government continues down its path of manipulation, chaos, and revenge, it won't be the deep state that destroys America. It will be Trump himself, with help from those who cheer on the ruin, believing it to be salvation. Because in the end, truth doesn't need propaganda. It only needs to endure.